our next guest. He's back in the black and orange. Look at you, Matt Williams. That's a name that inspires a lot of feelings for a lot of generations. We're going to have to tell him, Matty. We'll have to tell the kids how it used to be. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I'm trying to tell them how it used to be in the clubhouse right now. They're not buying it.
They're not listening. They're not listening.
No.
Well, it is great to see you, man. And it's great that you and Bob Melvin are back in San Francisco. Old teammates, now 2024. Let's start in the present before we get all nostalgic here. Right now, your job with this club, you and Bob, what's your mission with this club this spring?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's developing a style of play. We're in the process of evaluating all the guys, coming in, with outside knowledge, certainly, getting to know them, learning them, what they can do and can't do, and trying to put together a game plan for us to succeed this year. So it's going to start pretty soon. On Saturday, we get to play. So it's not shorter, but the older you get, it feels like the practice becomes shorter and shorter before the first game happens. We'll be ready.
We're speeding up here. What is your you and Beaumont, do you guys have a desired style of play?
Well, given the roster, roster construction is probably the most important thing. So we have guys here that are certainly capable, and we've got a lot of young players that are enthusiastic. We've got to try to teach them a little and then let them be themselves. The veteran guys, we got to get them in shape and make sure they're ready to go to play 162 games. So it's a little bit of both, but our style is that we're going to be competitive. We know that playing at home, especially, in general, they're low-scoring games. So we need to execute. We need to catch the baseball. All those things will come into play.
And Matt, you're a perfect guy to talk to some of these young players and prospects about the style of Giants baseball. And one of my favorite things last year was the Giants honoring Roger Craig with the Hum Baby up in center field. Now, obviously, you and Bob going back to the Hum Baby days. What kind of mentality is that bringing back to the franchise?
Well, if we look back at those days, not everybody remembers those days, but we do. It's, the Hum Baby style started with Will, right? It started with Robbie. Hackman was a part of that. Going back to that time, it was just competitive. Every day we stepped on the field, we felt like we had a chance to win, fought to the last out. I think that's what we're trying to, incorporate here, and be that. Would be our identity every single day that we go out there.
Well, that would be appealing to the fans, and also it would take on what I think is the boogeyman, the elephant in the room, and it is what the rival is doing down south. And what they did was historic in signing Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto. The numbers are astronomical, as we know, and also the talent is astronomical. So you just said you want to be competitive. A person on the outside, on the New York baseball writer, would say, the Dodgers are going to win 30 more games than the Giants this year. How do you guys kind of change that mindset in the clubhouse?
Well, we're not concerned about the Dodgers until we play them, right? I do have a little bit of a perspective on a great team on paper that didn't quite do what we were supposed to do last year. So that's fresh in the mind. There are other playoff spots, though. So you get in the tournament. You never know what might happen. All you have to do is look at the World Series last year. Did anybody in their right mind expect the Arizona Diamondbacks to be in the World Series? No, right? It can happen. And, the attitude that we have in the clubhouse and as we take the field every day for practice is why not? Why couldn't it be us? So we're working to that end every day. We're grooming the guys and getting them ready and making sure that we keep them as healthy as possible, and we'll move forward.
The voice you hear is Matt Williams, the legendary Giant from the Hum Baby days, who, of course, then traded away famously. And Brian Sabian still has to wear that one.
It wasn't a bad deal, though. You guys got Jeff. It was pretty good.
It was a crazy time. And Brian Sabian had to come on KNBR and say, "I am not an idiot." Remember that famous quote there?
Yeah, I think the trade worked out pretty well for the Giants.
And anyway, a long and winding road, a wonderful career, and then obviously you and Bob Melvin returned to wear the black and orange. Was there anything you've been around baseball a long time. It's a job. It's a business. Was there any romance to putting on the jersey again?
Of course. Yeah. Regardless of where you go in this game, regardless of what happens to you in this game, it's really important where you started. So somebody asked me a question the other day. I loved playing in Cleveland. We won a world championship in Arizona. I coached for a number of different franchises. I went to South Korea and managed. deep in all of that, I still bleed black and orange, man. It's going to be the way it is. It's because I started there. Al Rosen gave me great chances time and time again. I learned from great mentors and Roger and Mike Krukow and Chris Spire. Dusty taught me how to hit. All of those things is really deep in my soul. So, yeah, I do bleed black and orange.
So you can even get romantic about Candlestick Park?
Of course. Yeah. We look at it. It's weird because I was watching. You have a lot of time in spring training, right? In the evenings. So I was watching a documentary about the Buffalo Bills and them going to 4 straight Super Bowls and losing them all. Marv Levy was the coach, and one of his famous quotes was, "When it gets difficult for them, it's just right for us." So we can use that mentality when we play at home. I've been on the other side, right? I've been in the first base dugout at Oracle and watched the players go, "Man, it's cold out here. Wind's blowing. I don't know." We can use that. So that's one of our emphasis in spring training, that when we play at home, we have a definite advantage.
Matt Williams joined us live in Scottsdale. And Matt, we know all about your relationship with Bob Melvin. I wanted to ask about your time managing out in South Korea, and if that's something that got brought up at all when you guys were recruiting Jung-Hoo Lee.
Yeah, the questions, I had to field some questions from the front office about, what was your experience playing against him? Had a chance in the last couple of years to work with Ha-Sung Kim, and they were on the same team. So Ha-Sung and Jung-Hoo were arguably the best players in the KBO. I know that he's got fantastic bat-to-ball skill. He's a good center fielder. He throws well. He understands the game. He's a smart player, so he understands situations and what to do when he is at the plate or on the bases or whatever. So he'll be a great addition for us. And his attitude's fantastic. He was here early, so he's ready to go.
How is your Korean?
It's okay. I understand it more than I can speak it.
Yeah.
So the benefit of South Korea is it's really Americanized. So if you're driving down the street, they drive on the same side. You drive down the street, the street signs are in Korean and English.
Oh, gosh.
So it was a pretty easy
So you and he have a
transition.
little connection.
A little bit of a connection,
Oh,
yeah.
I love it. Matt Williams, the voice you hear, and a guy who's going to join us later in the show. And I know I don't want to make a 1-to-1 comparison, but everybody's different. But the comp between you and Casey Schmidt has been, for those of us who remember, has been very strong, and that is very toolsy, very potential laden prospect who can play the corner infield with a beautiful glove, soft hands, and potential for power, but struggling early with big league pitching. Yeah. And we all know what you went through, right? And with the results speak for themselves. Go look at Matt's baseball reference page, okay? It worked out okay. But Casey Schmidt is at that point right now. Yeah. Confidence, struggling, but talent. Is this a chance for you to really step in? Is it that easy for you to say, I was you?
Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, we had organizational meetings the last 2 days, and when his name came up, my comment was, "It's like looking in the mirror." Yeah. And so, he's a strong kid. He's got all the tools that you possibly could need. He's got the ability to actually move to shortstop and play, which was kind of my scenario. Yeah. It's a question of him finding himself, understanding himself, what he can and can't do, what are his strengths, what are his weaknesses. Defensively, he's supremely confident. He's got a great skill set. His gloves, it works well. He's got enough arm strength, all of those things. It's a question of him getting reps. So Bob, I'm sure, will give him every opportunity this spring, again, to get as many at-bats as he can. But it's a process, right? He's still a very young player, and it's a process for him to find himself. He'll do that over time, and hopefully the hitting coaches can help him find himself as quickly as possible. And then once he does that, his natural talent will take over and he'll be just fine.
And we saw Casey display those glove skills last year at third, at second, and even at shortstop, which you just brought up. But I wanted to ask you about your shortstop going into the season, Marco Luciano, because there's been a lot of tension on his development defensively throughout the minor league system. What have you seen so far from Marco Luciano this spring training?
He's working extremely hard, and he knows that there's an opportunity in front of him right now. The issue with Lucy is that in the last few years, he's been hurt a lot. So the development suffers at that point. So we're getting him as many reps as we can in spring. He'll play a lot and make sure that he's prepared to go. It's going to be a difficult decision for Bob and in the office to find out who goes, this year. But he's ready. He's aggressive. I like his skill set at the plate. He's got power. And so we're working on the infield just to make him, comfortable and making sure that he can make the routine plays. He'll make the great ones. We know that. But the routine plays are ultra important for him. So, it's great. We get a few games to monitor and to evaluate and let him get comfortable.
We could go on and on with Matt Williams. I know we got to let you go. A million questions to ask. Third base coach.
Yeah.
This is a big to-do now. This is a big deal, and you've done it now in the bigs.
Yeah.
Give us your story. It's a lonely place. It can be a place of heroism. It could be a place of tragedy. Tim Flannery used to tell us everything you need to know is on the scoreboard, right? What's the count? What's the out? What's the score? What's the innings? What's been your experience there? How hard is it? And what's your philosophy?
Well, it's the same. I mean, everything that you need to know on a baseball field, coaching is told you by the scoreboard. So, being aggressive at times, holding at times, depending on score, depending on where we're at in the game, all of those things. Ultimately, I'm an aggressive guy. It's going to be an interesting scenario for me the first week or so, getting to know the foot speed of all the guys, right? You don't see that unless you've experienced a whole spring with them. So that's part of my process. But, if we can take advantage of our opportunities, and that means, scoring runs when we can, then we'll be a much better team. So we're going to be aggressive. We're going to try to go first to third. We're going to try to score from first on a ball in the gap. All of those things are going to happen, and we'll see what we can do. But right now, it's good.
Mm-hmm. And we mentioned the Arizona Diamondbacks making the World Series last year. Now we saw that was a team that played a little bit more station-to-station baseball and was more active on the base path. Is that a strategy going forward for you guys this year?
It depends on your personnel. Mm-hmm. It depends on who's in the game and who we have ultimately with the roster. So that's an adjustment. If you've got a bunch of burners out there, it's easy. If your guys are more power guys and don't run so well, then we've got to pick our spots. But we've got a chance here. We can be in this thing.
I know we got to let you go. We're going to end with a fun, competitive question. So we talk to Krukenkuip every day,
right?
And by the way, those guys are your blood brothers, right?
Yeah, they are.
They're like family. They really, and they love you and you love them and everything. But they tell stories about you, period. Because we talk to them every day. We've heard every story through the years. They love you and they love. He's a nice guy, right, Marcus? Guess what?
Phenomenal.
We got a competitor here, a hard-nosed competitor here. So they tell stories of things that the BS you don't put up with, the BS from other teams you don't want to hear. How much of that hard-nosed Matt Williams competitiveness is coming to this team?
It's all of it. I don't know any other way, man. There's only one way to go about this. So with regard to the other team and competing and all that, as soon as you step across the white line, you're there to win. That's why we're here. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we can have fun and joke in the clubhouse and do all that stuff, but it's time to get serious when you step across the line.
Do you think the new generation needs to learn that a little bit?
I don't know. I mean, I think everybody does it in their own way. That's the way I have to do it to try to keep my edge. So, when you get out there on the field, they are the enemy.
Suffice to say, in 1993, I was there, game 162, and he wasn't putting up with the BS.
No.
He wasn't.
Yeah, that's frustrating, right? You get all that way and have to go home. That's
I didn't mean to bring that one up. Let's talk about brighter times, World Series championships and everything. But the point is that you brought an edge that you don't really see in today's game. I don't know if it's frowned upon now. Is it?
I don't know. I think everybody does it their own way, but that's the way I had to do it.
I like your way
to be competitive.
I like your way, and I want you to tell these kids your way. Okay,
all right,
so
we'll do.
The hum baby.
That's it.
Matt Williams.